I love it when my podcast guests are also my friends in real life. And today is one of those days because I am interviewing Austin's own tattoo artist and illustrator, the infamous, the wonderful Stacy Martin. If you guys have ever seen pictures of me and noticed, say, the Halloween in an ice cream cone or the woman with a Christmas tree beehive tattoo that I have, they were done by Stacy. When you have sat for 5 different tattoos with a person, you kind of get to know them pretty well because there's not a lot else for me to do besides babble. And this is where I realized that not only can Stacy make all my kitschy tattoo dreams come true, but that she is also equally amazing at social media and business. Before we jump in, just in case you forgot who I am and where you are, it's me, your friend Jennifer Perkins, and this is the Creative Queso Podcast. Each week I talk with different guests about the business of being creative and the creativity behind running a business. I've talked with authors, artists, store owners, calligraphers, hosts, all kinds of people because you know what? At the end of the day, whether you're selling soap or socks, business is business, people. And you know what? Today's guest, Stacy Martin, she knows about business. Not only does Stacy and I talk about tattoos and all of her infamous cuties, we also get into issues around licensing, contracts, and product design. Stacy not only has her own line of adorable enamel pens, prints, and housewares, she has also worked with companies like Sourpuss Clothing and Austin's own Sweet Ritual Ice Cream. As always, tons of great business takeaways and maybe even the occasional tangent about our favorite drag queens. Hello, Stacy Martin Smith.
Hello, Jennifer.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I am just fine and dandy. Excited to talk to you.
Same. I can't believe this is really happening right now. I put makeup on for you.
I know. We've been talking about it for forever.
Yes.
Oh, you didn't have to do. I did not put makeup on for you. As a matter of fact, I haven't showered in a few days. So.
I still take that as a compliment.
Sorry, I can't return the favor. Maybe later I will. It's my birthday.
Today?
So today is. So I feel like, I should shower and put on makeup to celebrate.
Happy birthday, Jennifer.
What's that face? Like, what were you supposed to do? Like, bring me a cake to the podcast interview?
Yes. I feel really unprepared right now.
This is my birthday. You should know this because you've tattooed me several times for my birthday.
Listen,
like you remember the day, but
I know you're a Libra. I know you're an Enneagram 7. I know all of these things about you. But the day.
Yeah, that's the important stuff. Well, I only know I've gotten tattooed on this day. You did my Halloween boo cone on this day because of Facebook memories. You know how it pops up and it's like on this day. And I'm like, oh yeah, I did get that done on my actual birthday. So not the first time we have hugouts on my birthday, but enough about me. We're here to talk about you and all of your awesomeness. So first things first, I'm curious. You're the first tattoo artist I've ever interviewed, and we're not going to just talk about tattooing, but I want to know, were you like artsy and craftsy as a child?
I was kind of just kind of born into it, I guess. The people that raised me, including external family too, were always making things. We never did takeout food, only when it was a special occasion. So we were always baking, making dinners. My dad was a carpenter part-time, so I pretty much watched him remodel the childhood house I was in and helped him with, he used to put water in a paint bucket for me so I could pretend I was painting with him.
Aww.
And he built the second house that we lived in way far down. But we'd always been, my mom always sewed my Halloween costume. So it's like, it was just kind of like a surrounding thing. So it was kind of a natural thing for me to also want to be a part of that and want to help, and then eventually kind of do things on my own. And they really were great at encouraging that. So that was pretty awesome.
That's good. Yeah, that's always important. That seems to be a link I always
Yeah.
hear is like the parents were that way or you were like around
Yeah.
it, subjected to it, whichever way you
Yes.
want to look
Yeah.
at it.
Forced into child
So,
labor
like, at what
during
point did
Christmas.
I mean, well, that's why I had kids. If you're not gonna have kids to help you make pom poms for Christmas trees, like, why bother?
There's no point.
Exactly. So, like, but at what point, like, because I grew up around artsy and craftsy, and like, for instance, like my sister is more of a fine artist like you
Mhm.
are, but for me or for Hope, like we never thought to ourselves, like, you know what? Like, I want to like turn this art into tattoos. Like, when did you kind of start to think about transitioning your creativity into that career path?
Well, I mean, the first thought probably occurred to me. I was in college at Syracuse University for freelance illustration. I remember a friend of mine wanted to stop into the tattoo shop that was down the road. That was the obligatory college, proximity tattoo shop. And I remember going in, just kind of looking around and being like, I wonder if I could do this. And I remember kind of, I was maybe in my second year of college. And I remember mentioning it at home, but that was where the line was drawn. I mean, I mentioned like, maybe I can be a tattooer. And this was like maybe 1998. And my parents were like, absolutely not. You're finishing school, the whole thing. And, they wanted, I mean, tattooing was not even close to where it is today. So further down the line, I started catching wind of people like taking artwork that we used to post up on bulletin boards and coffee shops. I remember somebody came to me one time, they're like, hey, check this out. And they like lifted their leg, not their leg, but their pant leg up. And it was the drawing that was on the board. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool and kind of weird. And hang on, I'm on the wrong end of this. Like, I need to figure out how I can be doing this and not have other people taking my artwork and tattooing it on people. I think
Hmm.
I could probably do this. I
You could be
mean,
doing both sides of it.
yeah, so that was kind of where the seed was planted. And then another friend of mine suggested I go talk to a specific studio about possibly becoming an apprentice. And I had no knowledge of tattooing. I was just very curious about it. So I went and talked to them, brought a portfolio that was built for freelance illustration and graphic design. So, like, nothing that was tattooable in there. But I didn't necessarily ask for an apprenticeship. I just kind of wanted to get a feel for it. So I just started kind of doing like showing up at the shop and helping out with stuff around the office and, doing kind of graphic design stuff and maybe doing some sign painting here for them and kind of revamping their business cards, like doing all that stuff that I already knew how to do from an illustrator graphic designer standpoint. And then also starting to absorb everything that was going on in the shop and kind of like the tattoo culture and everything, and kind of picking up more on that style of drawing and stuff like that. And then eventually, once I was there for quite a long time and actually got tattooed by a few of them, because I hadn't even had any tattoos yet. I finally
When you decided to let go, like discover your new career path, you didn't even have a
No, I
tattoo?
mean, I really kind of like I am so cautious with certain things, and I was just kind of like very slowly dipping my toe in the water. And I know for some people that might
Mhm.
prevent them from eventually even getting in because it's too cold, but I'm pretty resilient with that kind of stuff. So I just really want to make sure this was a life that I wanted because it really is
Mhm.
very different from a lot of other professions and also very similar to other ones. It's just such like a weird secretive underground thing, even still to this day, even with all the coverage and having it be more mainstream. There's still questions that the general public could have no idea the answers to, which I kind of
Mm.
like. It means it's
Yeah.
still magic. So that always makes me
It
happy.
reminds me of that, like, speaking of magicians, do you know what I mean? It kind of reminds me of that, like, that's all, like, shrouded in mystery,
Yeah,
like, you'll never know how we do these tricks, like, I feel that way sometimes about, like, tattooing, I'm like, "I don't understand how they make this happen."
exactly. I mean, people still to this day, they're like, I don't understand how you know where the needle is. And I'm like, and you never will. So yeah, I'm
Right?
cool with that. I mean, that's fine. People don't need to know everything about it. So
That's the mystique.
It is. Yeah, and it's intriguing and it keeps it special.
I like it. So, was there a lot of when you went from this background in illustration into tattooing, how different is like your drawing? How different does it
Oh,
have to be? Like,
well, I mean, when I started off illustrating, I did a lot of kind of like black work, kind of like some of the tattoos that are kind of popular in the last few years have been just like black line work tattoos of like old etchings or stipple work and stuff. And I was kind of doing stuff like that because I was doing illustrations for newspapers and stuff that had to be black and white and pretty bold and contrasty. So I initially started drawing like that and thinking, I could tattoo this. This is the style I want to do. And I quickly realized that it was almost impossible to do it in the same way that I was doing it on paper because the like skin is just so much different. And line work eventually, no matter how thin or fine it is, it does eventually age and move and grow with your skin and it starts to spread. So you have to take like all of these things into consideration. So you can't just make a tattoo that's going to look good for a year or so when they look super fresh like stickers. You have to make a tattoo for like, consider what it's going to look like about 20 years down the road. And once I started to really
mhm,
realize that, that really influenced some of the details that I either excluded or included into the tattoos, including even how much color I would use, and using the actual skin as negative space and not packing so much color in that it's just muddy. I mean, there's so many things. It's like a whole other bag of tricks. Yeah,
I'm sure you have to learn to get really good at editing.
very. I know. I edit the crap out of things, especially with the style and subject matter that I'm doing now. It kind of requires a lot of attention to detail and like little fine elements to it. So I have to be able to take those things and really dumb them down and really edit unnecessary stuff out, but still get across. I guess what the tattoo actually is. I mean, I'm speaking kind of in terms of doing like the cupies and stuff. When I'm doing like a celebrity one or a character, I have to include very specific things so that it's like instantly recognizable. So to do that and also have them as small
Mhm.
as they are, there's a lot of editing that does go into that. So they do take quite a while to draw just because of that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. And that transitions right into my next question, which was we talked on my Halloween tattoo, but for those of you guys listening, Stacy's done several of my tattoos that you might have seen on Instagram with like the lady with the Christmas tree and the little bear. And God, what else have you done? You did the Halloween in a boo cone and my kid's
Yep, that
ear.
little
Like,
picture, I love that.
oh, and the giant picture of my parents'
Yes.
house. So you've done a lot, but somebody that has not had work done for you from you may like know you because of your
Hmm.
cupies. So do you ever feel like pigeonholed as like the cupie tattoo girl or
I do feel like that when I do post something that's not a Cupid tattoo, it's funny because I notice a significant like drop in likes, and it's not. I don't take that as like people don't like this. I feel like with the Cupies, they're just such a universal thing across the board that I mean, people cannot help but react to those. I mean, it's just that's the way it is. But when I throw in, like a regular traditional tattoo or like a floral tattoo, I mean, that pertains and appeals, I think, to my like super core base audience, people that have been with me for like ever, that I've been tattooing since, especially in Austin, that I've been tattooing probably for the last 11 years. Like they know that I can kind of do almost every style. But the
Mhm.
Cupid thing has been like it's absorbed my entire portfolio at this point. I mean, it's the ratio is just way out of balance as far as Cupies to like, your everyday request for a tattoo, which I'm okay with. I'm not upset. I'm not upset
Mhm.
about that because they really are. Each one's so very different, and each client is so very different that it's never boring to do. It's always a challenge, which is really important to me.
Yeah, and I'm sure, like, even if it's like, because I think I asked you once, like, oh, I want to get a Kewpie of like Pee Wee holding the snakes, thinking I'm like so original, and I'm like, how many times have you done that one? And you're like, a lot. But I'm sure each person has like their own like meaning and connection to that.
Yeah.
Whether they get the Beyonce Kewpie or the Pee Wee Kewpie or the
Yeah. And
I
I
don't even
always try
know the
to
Prince
encourage
Kewpie. You've done them
people.
all.
I've done the Prince one. I think it's been like 2 or 3 times now, but they're always, 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 always very different. Whether it's like a stylistic thing, because I remember the first Prince I did was like at least maybe like 4 years ago, and like the most recent one was maybe 2 months ago. So there's a whole stylistic change in there. Plus, I always encourage people, as much as they loved the original one that I did, when they're asking for one that's the same, I always say, well, how about we do it like this? And they're usually super cool
Hmm.
with it because they start to see how excited I get. And I don't know, I'm just lucky to have clients that trust me. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. Is to have that trust and to have them just kind of like let me go, which is the best.
I mean, that's why I go to you when I'm like, I want a lady with a Christmas tree beehive. Like, there is no one else I would come
I,
to because I know you
I
get
totally
it.
get it. Yeah, that's the stuff that I grew up on. So, I mean,
Y- Yeah, but it is important to note. You kind of mentioned it earlier that like, people might know my kitschy tattoos or know your Cupies, but you do also do beautiful, more traditional, line work, like pretty ladies and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So,
sure. Yeah.
you know. Don't just get grouped in with the kitsch. So out of the kitschy cupies though, who has been your most popular? Like who did you have like the largest reaction
Okay.
to?
So I actually looked this up because
Did a
I
little
was curious about
research.
it too, because honestly, I thought it was the Nosferatu Kewpie, and I think that one kind of held the ranking for a while. And then I had done um, the Ron Swanson Kewpie and the
Mhm.
Karen Walker Kewpie from Will and Grace, who incidentally, Megan Mullally and Nick Offerman, who are married in real life, and Megan Mullally had gotten a hold of both of those from seeing a hashtag or whatever, and she reposted them, and that just blew those up like crazy. So those are the two that are the most shared.
The
They're
big
the most
ones.
shared and the most liked on there. So that's the answer to that. I
Interesting.
know.
I figured you would say that because I knew they'd been shared, but like I don't know why I always think of that like the Beyonce from Lemonade and the little yellow dress with like the baseball bat.
She
Like
was a close. She was
I
like
always think of
fourth.
that one.
Yeah, she was fourth, and
Was
then
she okay?
yeah, and then I forgot who I think the Prince one was up there. So like your classics, they're all there.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. If they play them on Bob
That's
FM
right.
as a
Mhm.
Kewpie, they're gonna be a winner. Another thing I was gonna ask you about is, and you don't have to go into this if you don't want to, but I just happened to notice a lot of people kind of like all of a sudden when I'm on, because I guess maybe since you and I are friends and I follow you, Instagram's starting to like serve up random things to me, serving up a lot of people doing Cupies as a
Oh
Halloween
yeah.
thing or as a celebrity. I'm seeing it like more and more. Like, what are your thoughts and feelings on
I
this?
mean, I feel like people have always been. I, how do I explain this? When I first started doing these, I was amongst several people that were kind of doing this. I don't know what it is about the ones that I've done, but I mean, I've gotten such an influx of people coming to me for them. I think it's just specifically the style that I do them in is pretty attractive. So, I mean, I just kind of, I don't know if I'm explaining this right. Um, I guess it just kind of snowballed to the point where I was just doing a ton of them, but people have always been doing them. I feel like around the same
Hmm.
time as me, I noticed I mean, people see that something's popular, they're going to jump on it too. And I mean, they'd be silly not to. There's plenty to go around. That's how I feel about it. Like they're not going to put me out of business and I'm not going to put them out of
Yeah.
business. I mean, if they're available and they're doing really awesome ones and, I don't know. I mean, just as long as they're doing them really well, I think that's a beautiful thing. If they're just ripping other people off, then that's a whole other Pandora's box that you
Whole
may
other
not want to
deal.
open with me. So
Look at you and your positive attitude. I know how that all
Yeah.
goes. I mean, I've told the story of when I used to make jewelry, people would literally put it on Etsy with the hashtag Naughty Secretary Club. And it's like, it's not a hashtag. It's really not.
No.
Like, it's my brand. But at the end of the day, I couldn't make enough jewelry for everybody on the planet if I wanted to. And you couldn't tattoo all the Cupies on everybody that wants one if you wanted to. So
Absolutely true.
there's enough for
That's
everybody.
right.
So, I know those Cupies have gotten super popular, but for tattoos, but you've also started licensing some of your designs for companies. I just saw a cute little new
Yes.
purse.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sourpuss Clothing just posted. Can I mention them?
Yeah, of course you
Okay.
can. Yeah.
They just posted. They did a purse out of a design that I created for them a few years back. It's a little Cupid devil. I did a whole line of little Cupid Halloween trick or treaters. Like they're all just kind of dressed in little costumes and stuff, and they put it on dresses, they put it on plates, and they put it on mugs and pillows and hoodies and pretty much anything you could think of. And just when you thought they were done with it, I think it was so popular that and people were kind of like calling out for it. People definitely let me know that they were bummed that they, had discontinued it once all those items sold out, but that was a few years ago. And seeing the little purse now, I mean, it just made me really excited that, it lives to ride again, I guess. So
It's a really cute little purse. I was just like, ooh, that is a cute little
I'm
bag.
pretty excited. They're sending me one and I cannot wait to get it.
Ooh, fun. I want to see it in person. So was that your first experience with licensing?
Sort of. We didn't really ever discuss licensing with them. That was kind of one of my first bigger national jobs, I would say. And how do I want to explain this? We just kind of had like a loose agreement that I would make artwork for them, and I can in turn also, they would pay me a flat fee for it. And in turn, I could use that artwork myself as well to do whatever
that's
I wanted
nice.
with. But that was also probably one of my biggest learning curves with that was, I do need to, and from here on out, have been basically using like a written agreement with clients now just to put boundaries and limitations on usage for the artwork that they're paying me for. Does that make sense?
No, perfectly,
Okay.
because I have a couple of questions concerning that whole thing because this gets into not just people that do tattooing, but anyone that does art or illustration that's into
Mm-hmm.
licensing. Um, when I was getting like my logo or my pen made, my enamel pen with my podcast
Mm-hmm.
logo, I talked to you about like that's a different, like I paid her to make it as a logo, but it's a different fee to pay her to use it as something I'm going to sell,
Yes.
and I think just a lot of people don't understand that. They might think like, oh, well, I got this thing tattooed on me. It's my tattoo, but it's like, no, it's still technically your art. And if you're going to use it in a different
Oh yeah.
way, like, can you kind of explain that nuance? I think that's confusing for a lot of people.
Well, I guess when you're making a logo for someone, that's one use for that image. So usage kind of pertains to, I would say, how somebody's going to use the product, where they're going to use it, and for how long it will be able to be used. And then if they want to reuse it, that's also needs to be put into consideration. And it's mind boggling, and there's so much that goes into it and a lot of legalese, but really it's like a logo goes on what? Your letterhead, your website. You're
Mm.
not making money off of that logo when it's on that type of thing. But when you do want to put it on something that you might be charging a customer for and putting it out into the public and making revenue off of, I mean, the artist should also be getting some kind of compensation since you're going to be using it for all these different reasons. So if you just had an agreement with them to use it for a logo, that's a price in and of itself. But if you take that and you start to put it on T-shirts and sell the T-shirts, make stickers, sell the stickers, that's you're using it for intentions other than what were initially laid out. So it's pretty important to have just a basic, I would say, agreement, like a written agreement where each of you sign it and it's in writing on, exactly how long they'll be able to use this, and for what. And that will determine ultimately how much you should charge for that illustration. So it just makes sure that the illustrator doesn't get screwed, which happens a lot.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of nuances about it. Cause like I said, I didn't even really realize it. And then I posted in one of those enamel pen Facebook groups about it. And boy, that just like lit up a controversy of 50-50 people being like, well, I already paid for it once. Why do I need to pay for it again to use it? And then the other half being like, I'm so glad that you understand this side, that you're using it in a different way than was originally intended, and you need to pay a separate fee for that.
I mean, there's a lot of people out there that kind of don't understand like standards and practices as far as like illustrators and graphic artists and stuff go, because it's so saturated now. I mean, there are literally like professional grade illustrators that are just, I mean, they're amateurs, but like you want to use their stuff because it's gorgeous and amazing. They just don't know where to go. They don't have representation, so they don't really know the legal aspects of things. They get excited about working with a company, and all of that business stuff kind of goes out the window for a minute. And down the line, that can kind of backfire on these illustrators, especially if they're not professionals and they're just trying to break in. They're going to get taken advantage of, and there's not a lot of information at the ready, I would say, for these people to look into and educate themselves with. But one of the things that I found to be incredibly useful was this book that they put editions out every couple of years. It's, I think it's called the Ethical Handbook of Pricing and Ethical Guidelines. And I think it's put out by the Graphic Artists Guild. Yes. And they have it on Amazon now. And it's like, it's such a useful piece of information because it literally has kind of blank contracts in the back that you can input your information into so that you can easily give that to a client, whether it be a small business, a single person. I mean, it breaks down pricing for all that stuff. It breaks down the pricing for usage, and it explains everything. It's kind of a big fat Bible of kind of a lot of legalese, so I start to drift off a little bit if I'm reading some of this stuff, but it is real basic. It's just like really basic standards and practices, which I feel like, a lot of people, especially a lot of these awesome artists that are just kind of floating around out there without representation and without an agent doing this stuff for them, it'd be worth getting. It's a write-off. I mean, just get it. It's
and I'll link to it in the show notes.
It's fantastic.
Because I think it sounds like it's a good thing for lots of, different illustrators and different genres to lay hands on. And so you mentioned there's like kind of boilerplate contracts in there. And then you touched on earlier when we were talking about the Kewpies that it was like a learning curve. Do you have like a standard contract that you go with now when people approach you about imaging or licensing?
I do. I do.
Tweak each thing?
Well, I tweak it just based off of, what the actual project is, because not every project is the same, but I do use an agreement now, and it doesn't matter how big or small the company is. If it's an individual person, if it's like a national company that wants to use things internationally, it really boils down to the same practices, that there are limitations on the artwork that I'm providing for them, and that they agree that it will be used for this amount of time. And beyond that, we'll have to renegotiate the contract. It also includes things like revisions, because I know a lot of people, like working with people, they don't quite understand sometimes that, if they want something changed slightly after you've already kind of finalized something and they've agreed upon it, man, that's time. That's still time. So, I mean, it's just such what is the word, indispensable book? I mean, everyone who's interested, even in doing like enamel pen work and doing stuff like that, they should all have that book just as reference. And you don't have to get every copy of it, but try to find the most recent copy, because it even includes kind of more modern things that weren't in some of the older ones, like web design and stuff like that. So
yeah, no, it sounds like
it's
a great
awesome
book. Okay, so my other thing is like, I thought, did you say that like now you're making people sign contracts like that get tattoos from you?
Oh,
is
no,
that what
no.
Oh, I thought you were saying it. But, that's an interesting concept because, like, say we're not friends and say I was like, "I love the Boo Cone." Do you know what I mean? Like, have you ever had anybody be like, "I'm gonna make that into a sticker and a T-shirt and a doodle and a doodle,"
Um,
or just I only think only my tattoos are that amazing that I wanna do
I
that with?
mean, I'm pretty sure you were the one that's like, "You should make a pin out of my tattoo." Just saying.
I mean
But
so maybe my ego is big when it comes to
so
my tattoos, but you do such awesome
but I was
work.
like, "No, Jennifer, I want your tattoo to stand alone and be awesome on you, but doing like a version of that that's different would also be that would be totally doable." See how I that's how I do it. I never want to take something that
Tweak it.
belongs to somebody and then steal it and use it for something else for my own personal gain. Um,
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
just me.
You're s you're such a good
I try.
person, and that's why I
Aw.
love you. So, besides Sourpuss, who are some other are there any other companies you can name that you work with that we should be out collecting all Stacey Martin Smith things from?
Totally. And one of my favorite ones is Sweet Ritual. It's the vegan ice cream parlor here in Austin, Texas. And I have done several t-shirt designs for them and sticker designs and patch designs that you can collect. We had this whole idea that
Ooh.
I know we had this whole idea to be able to reward some of their frequent ice cream buyers with patches. And of course, my brain went to, well, when I was a Girl Scout, all of our patches linked together, and it was really cool because like sometimes they were triangles and they all went together. So we decided they kind of have a reoccurring motif in their packaging, and it's like these really cool kind of Art Deco diamonds. So we did them all diamond shaped. So I think there's probably like 6 designs out now that you can collect that are based off of specific flavors and stuff. So those are pretty awesome. It makes me happy because it's also a product that I freaking love.
I've still not been there, and it's funny. I know you, and you've done other logo stuff, and then I know, oddly, another girl named Sarah Stacy who does their like. I guess she's like an interior designer. I think she did like the store, like redid the store. So it's like I know people that do stuff for them. I need to go get me some
You
vegan
really
ice
do.
cream.
It's today's your birthday. They do have vegan ice cream there. I'm just saying. They're pretty awesome.
Maybe I'll make the pilgrimage.
Yeah.
Maybe you've convinced me. So anybody else besides Sweet Ritual
Oh yeah.
and
I
Sourpuss?
just started working with burlesque dancer and drag queen Kitty Von Quim. And she's
Oh,
commissioned me to do some pretty badass little cupies of a bunch of her looks. And we're going to do stickers and we're going to do enamel pins of that. So I'm pretty pumped on that when she asked me to do it because she is so freaking adorable and she has some of the best looks. So I'm not going to give anything away. You're going to have to just stay tuned on my Instagram and on Kitty's Instagram to see this stuff revealed. So I don't want to ruin anything. I've also
oh,
worked with Haunted ATX. They've asked me for a Cupid design of their little Undertaker that's kind of their little logo. And Texas Roller Derby TXRD, the Bank Track Girls, I've done a bunch of their designs for their merch. So a bunch of pinup girls modeled after each, I guess, each mascot for each team. There's like 4 or 5 of them that I've done. And I've worked with Mind's Eye Creative before too, and they did a Bernie Sanders campaign, and they wanted a Bernie Sanders Cupid that was really cute, and it was put a burn on it, so it was a little fundraiser for his campaign too.
aw,
So that was pretty awesome. I'm probably for,
little
I
baby
know.
Bernie.
I'm probably forgetting some people, but those are the ones that stick out in my brain as the most fun and like the stuff that I really, really, really believe in. So yeah.
I love it. Well, I'll link to all those in the show notes as well. So, do you have any like pearls of wisdom or advice for people that are primarily a tattoo artist at the moment, but are kind of wanting to also break into that illustration work side of
Um,
things?
that's a great question. I would say definitely be proud of what you make. Make sure it's something that you would wear yourself or that you would be happy to put out there. Don't just make something because it's on trend or, just to make money, because you can just tell that it's just not as special as it is if you really believe in it and take your time with it. I guess
You
don't
mentioned the book. That seems like a pretty good tool.
that book, yeah, definitely try to do things. I don't want to say do things by the book. I mean, tattooers are so used to being kind of like these pirates. Like we like kind of refuse to want to do things by the book, like, screw the man and all that stuff. But honestly, I feel like some of the most successful tattooers that I've seen kind of turn and start putting merch out and everything. They're doing so with a plan. You might not see that plan on Instagram, but I feel like they're putting out nicely curated lines of things. It's not just one product. It's maybe like two or three things with some of their more recognizable imagery on it. I think having a nice cohesive collection of some of the work that they do on merchandise is probably one of the best things, the best ways to go. I don't know. Does that make sense?
No, perfect sense. I mean, because I think people like underestimate that. Like if they were a tattooer, like that you could make this other, not even supplemental. It could be your main income eventually if you
Yeah.
had like product lines. I mean, to use like Sailor Jerry as an example, but I mean, his stuff for a hot second, like you
Yeah.
couldn't like throw a stone without hitting somebody in an Ed Hardy shirt or like,
That's true.
but I mean, that's just like one of the things I'm like, who's coming to mind as far as like someone whose like imagery has been licensed quite a
It's
bit.
funny too, because I think for a lot of tattooers, both of those names are, I mean, that can bring up a sour note with some people because those were designers that took those designs that belonged to those artists who were, and then they kind of ran with them in a way. And I'm not even sure that the original artist like had anything worked out or their families had anything worked out to receive any of the residuals from that or any kind of royalties. So that's some advice that I could give you.
Oh, that's horrible.
Don't enter into any agreements without having these companies at least sign an agreement that makes sure that you don't get screwed, especially if you're going
Hmm.
to be working with a company. If you're doing it for yourself, just, that's one thing. But if you do enter into a project with companies, at least don't let them take advantage of you. It wouldn't hurt to have a copyright lawyer or a lawyer that's familiar with artist rights kind of look stuff over. Um,
Hmm.
it's kind of expensive, but it might save
No,
you.
I mean, I know lawyers can be super
Yeah,
expensive, but sometimes for something like that,
yeah,
like, it's just worth having all your I's dotted and T's
correct.
crossed. Another tool I wanted to mention that I've seen you use, and it seems like for artists and tattoo artists would be really indispensable, is an
Oh yeah,
iPad
yeah.
Pro. Like, I love the way you use it not only to, draw out ideas for tattoos, but you also use it in a way as like a social media tool using what I don't even know what that is. I don't have one where you can show your little illustrations.
Um, well, the app that I've been using currently, and since I've got the iPad, is called Procreate. Um,
Okay.
and one of the options on there is it records your drawing process, and then you can export the video as a time lapse from start to finish of your drawing. And it's just people on Instagram, including myself, and not just including artists, but people that cook and I don't know, build and do anything. People love process videos. They're mesmerizing to watch. And since I started posting those once a week, it's got me using the IGTV feature, which I didn't even think I had a reason to use that. But it is one of the coolest things since I figured out how to use it. Because I could post, full length videos on there of either a time lapse of me tattooing or a time lapse of a process drawing from start to finish, so people can see kind of where these cupies come from. They don't just appear out of nowhere. It's really a struggle from those first few blue sketches, and then it gets refined slowly, and then you see the finished product that ended up getting tattooed on somebody, which I always think is pretty awesome to see where something originates. Because you kind
Hmm.
of just take for granted that these things just kind of appear on people, and you don't realize the process that goes into it.
Yeah, no, I love the way that you've been using that Procreate to like show that like backside of it. I think it makes it so much more interesting. Like, oh, because you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, I get suckered into watching those like the process videos.
And I feel like up until more recently with the Procreate app, there have been other apps and other drawing tools, but for some reason, the Apple Pencil and the brushes on this are just, I mean, they're so close to, they're not the same, but they're incredibly close to using pen and paper. And it's just been indispensable. I've been able to take this thing on planes before I do guest spots and get all my artwork done on the plane before I even land. So, I mean, it's so convenient to not have like rolls of paper and pencil shavings and everything everywhere. But it doesn't mean I will never draw on paper again, because I will always paint on paper. That's always going to be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, you can do both. Like, I'm sure some people, like, there's a stigma, like, oh, an iPad.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're never going to, like, give it up. You're never going to, like, quit using paint or pencils or
Exactly.
whatever.
And
You know
half the
what I
time, those
mean?
naysayers are the people that just, they've never tried it. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. I mean, haters going to hate, as they
They're gonna
say,
hate. Mhm.
as the cool kids say.
Mhm.
So, out of, I meant to ask this when you were talking about your freelance stuff. Who are some of your, like, favorite clients to work with, whether it be, like, as a freelance artist or as a tattoo artist? Do you like people with like a really super clear vision, or do you like people that are, more come to you like, I kind of have this roundabout idea?
If is it possible to be like kind of specific, but also pretty open minded and like open to
Mhm.
suggestion? Um, I do like when people give me problems to solve. And that's kind of how I look at everything. They have this specific thing in mind, they have this piece of skin or, this specific product that's a certain shape that they need it on. So, and they only want it in this many colors or they want it in this style. So I guess like ideal clients are people that are familiar with my work. They play to my strengths when they're asking me as far as subject matter what to do. It's not something that's so far outside my wheelhouse that I feel like I'm learning a new style while I'm making this project. And just people that kind of like just let me ride. And I'm usually open to suggestion from the clients too, as long as it's within reason. Um, and a lot of
Mhm.
times, I mean, sometimes my clients, man, they out imagination me, they out creativity me. And it's like almost intimidating sometimes. Like I give quite a bit of credit to them for some of these pieces that I've done that people go crazy over. Cause I mean, sometimes I'll just blurt out a cute little thing. Well, what if she was doing this? And I'm like, oh my God, let's do that. And then I'll just take
Mhm.
it, 10 steps further in that direction, which is usually what sets stuff over the edge. So I really do like people that are kind of on the imaginative side. Something when people come to me and they're like, well, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, why don't you, just do whatever. And I'm like, that's like the worst. It's one of the worst things somebody can say to me because it's like I have this entire catalog of things that I could pull from, and that's almost too overwhelming for me. So as long as I can narrow it down just like
Mhm.
the ittiest bit and send me in just a vague direction, like slightly to the left, or slightly to, you know,
Mhm.
up these stairs. So that's usually, I like a little bit of direction with something and, kind of a couple of keywords and I'm ready to roll.
But not
Not
overbearing.
overbearing. I mean, don't text me in the middle of the night asking how it's going, you know, because it's gonna make me nuts. But yeah, just that little bit of trust and all that's always like an honor to have that from some people. So
I like it. So a happy
yeah,
medium.
always.
So you don't not only do you like do work for other people, but you also like you have your own successful Etsy store. I mean, you sell your own enamel pens hand over fist. So like, how has that worked out for you? Like when you like decided, like, what, I'm gonna start putting out my own pens.
Um, it was a long time coming. I was hesitant to do it because I just wasn't sure what I wanted to make, and I'm always pretty hard on myself. Like I'm like I have to do something new. I have to create something different and new. And then I'm realizing that I had like several successful just pieces of art that I had made for art shows and that I sold prints of, and I was looking at those and kind of like honing in on those and seeing things that could be enamel pins. And I was like, oh, let me take the little bats from this painting and let me make 2 little enamel pins of them. They'd be sold as a set and they'd be really cute. You could put them on, you could share them with a friend as like little BFF pins, or you could put them on either lapel. So they're kind of playing off of each other. And that was my first enamel pin. And it'd been sitting there. The idea had been right in front of me the entire time. And just kind of taking them and translating them from the initial drawing with all the shading to this, this little 3-dimensional pin with very flat coloring. That was a little bit of a trial, but they ended up being the kind of like the little flagship pin of mine that I don't think I'll ever discontinue or ever stop selling. I mean, they're just freaking cute, man. So they're just gonna keep going until I'm long gone. So,
They are cute. I have a set.
Yeah,
I love them.
Happy birthday, Jennifer.
What about the Thank you. You know what I really want for my birthday? I want you to bring those monsters back. Are you ever going to bring the monster Cupies back?
I mean, people were really bumming that I didn't bring them back just in time for Halloween. They'll be back in due time. I'm debating on a few things with those because it's 4 of them. I don't like doing soft enamel pins. I like doing the hard enamel, which is quite a bit pricier. So I think they will come back. I just don't know when.
They're real cute. I'm just telling you. You got my vote on those guys. All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna talk about some drag queens because as someone who has stayed with you in hotel rooms, I know your love. You brought me to the RuPaul's Drag Race dark side. Now I'm watching. So now I'm a fan. So you talked about you're going to do some work for Kitty Von Quinn, but you mentioned to me recently that Trixie Mattel has said your name. What was that story?
Okay. So I made a Trixie Mattel Cupie for a client. She requested this, and I remember we posted it a long time ago, and we're kind of just waiting, and like all of my clients were tagging Trixie in it, and we were just waiting and waiting and waiting, hoping that she would see it and maybe post it. But nothing, of course. And then randomly, I'm on vacation in New Orleans, and one of my absolute favorite clients texted me. He's like, Trixie Mattel just said your name.
You're just like,
I know.
what?
I kind of freaked out and went online and kind of hunted everything down and went on her site. And she finally, I think there's a little curated Instagram that's called just Drag Queen Tattoos, and all they do is feature tattoos of drag queens, no matter what style or color, black and white, whatever, realist, non-real. It's just an awesome little curated thing. So Trixie, I think, caught it on there and then posted it on her site and actually tagged me in it, which was pretty awesome. So Trixie Mattel typed my name into the internet, and I lost my mind a little bit. It was pretty exciting. It was a really good week for me. So
Aww,
I got a few followers.
That's so precious.
So it's cool.
A couple, maybe.
Just 2, 3.
So have you ever done my current obsession, and we're going to transition into this, are the Boulet brothers. Have you ever done Cupie Boulets?
No Cupie Boulets yet, but I do tattoo one of the contestants on the current season, and they have a few of my most popular ones, very vampire oriented. So I did a little Nosferatu Cupie on Louisiana Purchase, and Lucy the vampire from Bram Stoker's Dracula on Louisiana as well. And she just DM'd me on Instagram and wants to finally get a Cupie of herself.
Oh,
that'll be my first Boulet, which would be pretty badass. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yes, I am. I was just going to transition into Louisiana because I'm obsessed with the show. Like the Boulet brothers, like everything they wear, I'm just like, maybe I want to be a drag queen when I grow up. Like, can I be them? Can I wear latex? Like,
I want to be a Boulet brother. Like their looks specifically are like,
they're amazing.
They're awesome.
Oh my God, if you're listening, you have to go watch it on Amazon right now. And of course, root for Louisiana Purchase, who is from Austin, like us. And I kept wondering, if you could see her tattoos on the show, if you were going to get any. I know both of the ones you're talking about, but I don't think I realized that they were her tattoos. I just like have seen it because you're just seeing a little piece of
Right,
skin.
right.
So
Well, I mean, she's typically usually in like a very, I guess, like a very revealing bodysuit most of the time. So you can see visibly almost all of her tattoos that are on her arms and legs. And these two specifically are on her legs. They haven't been like zoomed in upon or anything like that, but you can see them. You can pick them out. I know where they are. So I see them right away.
you're like, I know where they are.
Yeah. I guess if they featured them, then I'd have to like sign something to make sure it was okay. But they haven't been specifically featured. Yeah. Duh. Right.
Oh, I mean, I guess that's true. Well, you think that? I don't know. Like, they didn't ask me if it was okay to put my Christmas tree on my Halloween tree on Bravo. Nobody asked me for permission.
At this point, it's just too hard to like wrangle all the tattooers that are that have had their work.
Right. I mean, for that show, like, yeah, everybody's got
That's true.
tattoos. Like, I guess it would take like forever in a day. Well, I love it. I'm always like, every time I watch an episode, I'm like looking really closely at Louisiana. Like, can I see it, Stacey?
Yeah,
tattoo?
just look for like glossy, round little eyes and a little, a bit of fat little head and a fat little belly. And that's probably one of mine.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back and like pause some of those episodes and take a closer look. All right, last question. Where should we go for queso? I mean, we've had queso together in real life, I'm sure, but...
Okay. I knew you were going to ask me this question because I listened to your podcast. Happy birthday. My favorite... Okay, so the favorite queso that I've had recently was actually by accident at a show at the North Door. There's this taco trailer inside the North Door, and it's called Pueblo Viejo. Have you heard of it?
I haven't.
It is absolutely delicious. And we went to go see the live show of Mortified one night, and all of these people kept walking by with chips and salsa, chips and queso, some tacos, and I'm like freaking hungry. So I followed the smell, and there it was. So, and it was honestly some of the best queso that I've had here in Austin. So there you go. Pueblo Viejo.
Delicioso. And I'm just about to buy tickets to go see Bedpost Confessions live, another Austin podcast, which is taping there.
Perfect.
So I will 2-for-1 special and get some of that queso when I go hear people, talk about what happens in the bedroom.
Oh, God.
I know. Do I want to eat queso in that situation?
You do. Yes,
I don't know. Sex and queso, I can do it.
I mean, Mortified is people reading out of their diaries from when they were in middle school. So, I mean, it was pretty saucy and a little uncomfortable, but still, I didn't stop eating the whole time.
Well, maybe it'll be like a nervous thing, like a confessional in queso. I like
that.
it.
That is exactly what I was doing.
Hooray. Well, Stacey, thank you for hanging out with me on my birthday.
You are so welcome, and I will do this anytime with you, Jennifer.
Hooray. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You too.
Pop over to Instagram and follow Stacey and see all of the Kewpie cuteness at Stacey Martin Tattoos. Be sure to also check out her Etsy and Society6 stores so you can grab a set of those Bat Baby pins too. I told you there was some great info today. I had no idea about the logo usage issues. And for fellow artists, these are some great pearls of wisdom to make sure you don't get taken advantage of, or in my case, to make sure you're not accidentally taking advantage of someone else. Also, now I am suddenly really itching for a new tattoo. If you were going to get one of Stacey's Kewpies, who would it be? I'm thinking maybe the Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton characters from The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, because, ooh, that'd be cute. All right, if you love this episode, and how could you not, go back into the archives where I chat with all kinds of other artists and illustrators like Andrea Pippins, Ann Shin, Alyssa Burke, or Ana Victoria Calderon. And remember that part about where I said it was my birthday? Well, you want to get me a present? Because, of course you do. Well, here's how. You could rate, review, or subscribe to Creative Queso right here on iTunes or wherever else you are listening. And the cherry on top of that gift would be if you were to take a screenshot of this episode, tag me at Creative Queso, and share it in your Instagram stories. Best birthday present ever. All right. Thank you again to Stacey Martin for hanging out today. Merci beaucoup to Mariah Gossett for producing this episode. Gracias, Chris Beck, for the music. And grazie to you guys for listening. I'll see you next week.